Oh man, you're gonna make me raise up.
Welcome back
It's just it's so
to the
simple.
Tis It Is podcast. You're going to make me raise up, baby. And nobody's going to know the context. So the only people who are going to know what that is going to be NHL fans. And they're going to have to know, they're going to do some digging.
There we go.
Buddy,
not too much digging, but yeah.
You are decked out in Charlotte gear tonight. Are you a little excited about the NBA season starting up?
I am excited. I'm excited that the Charlotte Hornets have a little bit of positivity surrounding the team this season. Nothing like, there's not championship aspirations, I don't think, necessarily. It's a new coach, a lot of young talent. That's really exciting. Still new ownership. I think last year was their first year. So I'm just kind of excited about the future, and I think that there's going to be a lot of fun games. They won their first game. They just tonight lost their second game, but they were down 3 starters, so I can't be too awful upset. So I'm just kind of excited about the season, and it's always kind of fun to throw another sport into the rotation.
Absolutely. And it's still so early. That's what I keep telling myself, too, about hockey. They just play so many hockey games, just like NBA. They play so many games. So I'm like, well, you can lose a few that maybe you should win at this point. You can do that now in October.
Yeah,
but
that's how when the Hurricanes lost their first game, the social media page, their tweet said, your annual reminder that we will not go 82-0.
Yeah. I saw that.
Respect.
Full disclosure, whenever we play all this year, if we win, be prepared for me to throw some shade at y'all's admin, because y'all's admin really pissed me off last year. I don't know if you remember or not. It's when I think it's the game we watched while y'all were here, when y'all thumped us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I honestly don't even know the full story, but the Panthers always tweet that graphic of the drawn panther after we win.
Yeah.
The Canes tweeted that and had the L in Florida highlighted and put tears on the cat. That pissed me off.
Yeah. I will say, I don't know if I love or hate it. The Canes admin is on one every game.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever's running the page is just, which it's hilarious. When we're doing well and stuff, and they no filter. They say whatever they want to say.
Right.
And it's really funny, but then it definitely comes back and bites us as soon as we lose.
Oh, I had it.
It happened last year in the playoffs for us.
Right.
They were saying a whole bunch of stuff, and then the Rangers took care of us, and they were posting a little crying Canes fan, so it was, you got to take it if you're going to give it out. So I don't know if I was running the page, if I would be quite as I don't know, aggressive, but they are, and it's at least entertaining. So
no, I guess I would rather you be, more aggressive than more timid or whatever. It makes it more fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had that bookmarked, hoping that we would meet y'all in the playoffs, and if we got to send y'all pack, and we'd be like, hey, whatever. But
whoever runs the admin page, like I said, if you're gonna dish it out like that, you gotta be able to take it. So
yeah. So all that to say, if you see me throwing some shade at y'all at some point in the year, obviously it's not directed towards you. It is directed towards the admin.
All in good fun.
But, buddy, this is not what we're talking about tonight. In fact, you have something that you said you wanted to talk about. So you said that you wanted me to shut up.
Yeah.
And you have the floor, so consider it yours.
Yeah, verbatim what I said.
Yep.
Yeah. So I don't have anything crazy. I honestly just literally thought of it as we were sitting here. Just a quick thing. Inspired by what I did right before we recorded here, which was eat dinner. Oh goodness.
So what I'd call it.
So before I pooped, ate dinner.
As one does.
So anyway, something that I was just randomly was thinking of is I feel like every person at least maybe this isn't fair, but at least every guy I feel like would say this. But pretty much every person I think will have something they'll talk about as my mom's blank is the best version of this food, or my wife's this is the best this.
Right.
And I think it's, obviously it's largely due to you grew up with that, and you have, it might be, I don't know if nostalgic is necessarily the right word for food, but you grew up with this version of the food, or this makes you feel at home, or this is the only version you have. But for some reason or another, that version of that dish is you would take it over the most expensive plate of that from anywhere in the world. And I think that's kind of a cool thing. I really like that. My person's version of this is my favorite, hands down. It's the best I've ever had.
Yes.
So I was just kind of thinking about that, and just kind of cool how everyone has those. I feel pretty much everyone, I feel like.
Yeah.
And for my wife, there's a couple. one, I think her quesadillas are outstanding. I love
Ooh.
them. But the other one that we had tonight that put me in just a, I had honestly a long work day today. I had to go do a trunk or treat after work. So I just had a long day on my feet a lot.
Yeah.
So I was tired when I got home. And she had made potato soup, which
Ooh.
I love her
Mm-hmm.
potato soup. And now I'm in a good mood. I have potato soup now, leftovers for the whole weekend.
Yep.
It's great. Like, yeah, I'm on top of the world, I feel like. Just something so simple. But that kind of just inspired that. Just thinking, I wonder what, other people's favorite stuff. So I was just wondering if you had any from your wife or your mom. Just
Yeah.
anything that's your favorite version.
For sure. First off, I want to say potato soup is especially great. What's y'all's weather right now? You a little nipply? You getting into a little nipply?
It is, yeah, it was chilly today.
Yeah, so that's when it's even better, dude. Whenever you come home and you're like,
Soup
oh, it's
season.
kind of cold outside. Come inside, the heat's on. You get a little warm bowl
Yeah.
of potato soup. Oh,
It's so good. Yeah.
that sounds amazing. Also, I'm gonna have to try next time y'all come down or next time we come up there. I gotta see some of these quesadillas because love a good quesadilla.
Absolutely.
we
A
got some-
quesadilla.
Yeah, on a corn tortilla.
It is real quick. Our quesadilla story. We joke about it all the time. Like our future kids are going to be like, "What in the world is quesadilla night?" Because the way we do it, the way it doesn't make any sense. She used to be able to do it perfectly fine. I think it's like now she has like the what do they call it in like baseball when you get like the
The
yips
jitters?
and can no longer
Yeah.
yeah something. She can no longer flip it without like completely missing like the thing like when she gets the different sides. So now how we do it, like she makes the one side chicken, cheese, everything. I literally we put it on a plate as she gets the other half ready. I literally have to palm it and then just like spike it on top. So it's like this crazy, we're like, out of the way, out of the way. It's this big ordeal every time we make the quesadillas.
That's
And I'm
awesome,
just like,
though.
our kids are going to see that and be like, what in the world are my parents doing?
No, what's gonna be funny is that's all they're gonna know. So then they're gonna go over to their friend Tommy's house for quesadilla night. That's not at all. They're gonna be like, "Why aren't y'all drunk spiking your quesadillas? This isn't right."
Exactly.
That's honestly better. Like, I love it.
Yeah. I love it.
So for sure, for me, it's funny you brought this up because literally tonight I had this conversation with my dad because I was on the phone with him eating what is my favorite meal that my mom makes. That is now my favorite meal that I make is my mother's fried chicken. Oh God,
Okay.
It's so freaking good, and I will put my fried chicken up against almost any. I will put my fried chicken up against any homemade meal. If ever we're having a potluck, I'm like, I'll cook fried chicken, and you're gonna have all kinds of different stuff or whatever, but I'll bring my fried chicken. I think it's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
I will never touch my mother's exact way she does it. I can't figure it out, but that honestly makes it even better. So there's that. My
I believe
wife.
you made it. Sorry.
No,
I
you're good.
believe you made it maybe for me and our other roommates in undergrad.
Yes.
At the house we lived in. I believe you made it once. And yeah, I do remember being very good.
It's so good. Dude. That with some roasted red potatoes.
Yes.
that
Say
was-
less.
That was my dinner tonight. It's so good. My favorite
Great.
meal
We both
that
had
my
good
wife
dinners.
makes that I think she makes better than anybody is chicken and dumplings. It's some kind of
Ooh.
I haven't gotten chicken and dumplings that many places. I mean, it's one of those dishes that I feel like a bunch of places can do it a little differently. So
Yeah.
I've never seen it exactly like she makes it. I couldn't tell you exactly what she's doing differently, but it's specifically the dumplings, the fluffiness of the dumplings and the way it's paired with the chicken. Oh God, it's so good. It's by far my
a good one.
favorite meal she makes. So yeah, it is nice to have those things. Like you come home, maybe you've had a bad day, but then you have that meal for dinner, and you're like, I'm great now. Like,
It really will. It can completely like 180 your mood. I feel like it's just
Right.
such a like one of your favorite meals like that. Oh, I don't know. It's just a healing feeling, and I love it.
A healing feeling. I love that. That's great. Well,
So yeah, that's all I had. Something very simple, but
Yeah.
I don't know. It just kind of got me thinking. I was like, I'd have to ask Scott if he has a couple of those.
sound off. What's your favorite food?
We're getting to the big questions on this podcast.
Yes. What is your favorite color?
I don't know that.
Blue. No. Changes his mind.
I love it.
Tonight.
That's easy.
I say that all the time. Like, you can use that a lot. That's easy.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Before anything, and then just absolutely fail at it. It makes it that much funnier. Tonight, in celebration of Halloween, because I believe this episode will be coming out the day before Halloween. Right? Right there.
Yes, I believe so.
we talked about some of our favorite horror movies earlier in the month. And then tonight, we're going to call it what I believe you called it the Faces of Horror, which I think is a good way to coin it. It's going to be like our own personal. I guess we're going to do like a Mount Rushmore of sorts, but it's going to be our
Yeah.
personal favorite faces of horror, characters
Yeah.
that we think of when we think of horror. And
Right.
we talked before we started recording, and I said that I think half of my list easily I could rotate out. I could be convinced like to rotate out. It's kind of hard to narrow this down to 4 for me. So I'm anxious to see like what some of your picks are, and maybe that'll make me shuffle some things around. So with all that being
Yeah.
said, if you want first take, I'll let you have it.
Sure. And before I start, yeah. So just kind of to go a little bit further into the how I viewed this, I guess. So as you mentioned, we did talk about like our favorite scary movies already earlier this month. So check that episode out if you're interested. And even in that episode, we kind of alluded to this conversation. And just to separate the two, like like some of these you almost can't talk about much without talking about their movies.
Right.
But this isn't necessarily, they're not making it on here because of like the quality of one movie or something. It's more so like what that character or that face stands for within kind of the horror or scary genre, I guess.
Yep.
I think even if both of us kind of view this a little differently, it's not a competition necessarily building our Mount Rushmores or whatever you want to call them. So I think even if like the way one of us looked at it was a little different, I think personal favorite just kind of makes sense. Like what your Mount Rushmore is, whether you're taking into account like their status as far as being like a iconic or just like your personal favorite. I think you go either way, either direction. I think it will make both lists kind of fun. With that being said, I do have at least one, maybe even two of mine that you might roll your eyes at a little bit because if anyone watched that other episode, they will know my taste in like the horror genre and scary stuff is considerably more tame than yours is. So mine isn't necessarily like the most terrifying thing, where yours, I'm assuming, might be a little more geared toward that. But without further ado, I guess I can talk about my list. And throwing mine together, I actually had three that came to mind that were like, I want these on mine. Like I kind of locked them in pretty early. And then I was kind of rotating through that last one. And then I kind of realized that the three original ones that I had all kind of occupied a different space within the genre. So I didn't want, I had a whole bunch of ones that I considered for the fourth one that I can talk about in honorable mentions or something if you don't throw any of them out.
Yeah.
But they were kind of all similar enough to one of the other three that I kind of wanted to go, since I already had three very different things, I wanted to pick a fourth different thing, if that makes sense.
Ooh, okay.
So this is the one, if any of them, that you're going to roll your eyes at, I might be this one. So I'm just going to start it off, though. I think it's still fine. It's from like one of the most iconic horror movies ever, though. So I'm going to take Bruce the Shark from Jaws.
Honestly, I don't hate that at all. That's very unique.
Yeah, I think it represents like the type, like a more like natural horror, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like you have movies like that where it's like a big bear or obviously the shark or even like to a certain extent like dinosaurs or something in Jurassic Park, like
Right.
that type of horror. And I think the movie, I know this isn't necessarily about the movie, but that original movie works really well, even though it's from the 70s. It's that Jaws theme is
Oh, I love it.
amazing. Like it just, and I think something about those type of like natural horror things, like you can't go to the beach and not think about Jaws.
Right.
Like you can't. Like every person that goes to the beach, at least even if they're not scared of the water or something, like you have that thought for even if it's a split second.
Yep.
So it stays with you, I think, and the shark, I don't know. I just think it's kind of funny to think about like the Mount Rushmore with the big shark head or something up there, but I'm just gonna take it. It kind of, I think, is the epitome if you're thinking about that type of horror with the natural animal or something. I think Jaws is far and away probably the most iconic one.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think I like the movie a lot. Like I said, this is probably my fourth of my four picks. But it kind of was a different enough thing that I thought it would be worth throwing up there.
I like it a lot. Honestly,
Okay,
I
cool.
forgot that his name was Bruce. So whenever you said Bruce, I went to Finding Nemo.
Bruce the Shark, yeah.
I was like, okay, hey, you want me to roll my eyes? I'm definitely gonna roll my eyes at Bruce from Finding Nemo, but not Bruce from Jaws. You mentioned it, the theme. I freaking love it. I love it's a freaking fantastic instrumental theme. I love it.
Yeah, so simple but so good.
It honestly holds up rather well too. I think the effects and stuff in today's time, which is really
Yeah,
cool to see. And yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's especially true. You're talking about like it being realistic, and you think about when you're at the beach, the apparent fact that we know more about outer space than we do our oceans, kind of insane to me.
Terrifying. The
So
oceans are terrifying.
yeah,
Absolutely.
they are. So yeah, I think Jaws is, if we ever had to pick a most realistic threat or most like, yeah, that's freaking scary, dude. I love that pick, honestly. I think it's great.
All right, cool. Cool, cool.
I'm trying to think. I definitely don't think I could sit here and give you. You said like it might be my fourth pick. I don't know if I could give you mine in any order either. Like
Mine aren't necessarily in order either.
Yeah.
I just was saying it's the fourth one I thought about. I don't even know if I necessarily think I would rank it fourth, but it's just the last one that I cemented into the spot.
I'm gonna take one. First off, because this is the most realistic of my options. Secondly, because I figured this is on your Rushmore as well. Maybe not after the intro you gave. I am going to take Ghostface as a face of horror. I think, first off, I think if you have to pick like a Halloween costume that is most recognizable, I think Ghostface has to be way up there.
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Especially like I don't know if you remember, like I remember when they first came out because I was like I thought they were so cool. They had the ones where like they had like the pump and you could like pump like blood would like run down the mask and stuff.
Yes.
It's so cool.
And the machete that also had like blood.
Yeah,
in it.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So like I just think it's like perhaps the most iconic costume, which is one thing, but I do like that ghost face. I know you've talked about it with your recent watchings of the Screams. It could be anybody. He's just a dude. Could fall over, could trip, whatever. You can hurt him. He's not some unstoppable force. Pretty realistic. And I just think if you're talking about horror, if you're talking about an instantly recognizable character or face, I think Ghostface is up there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, spoiler, I guess. I'll go ahead and say it. Like, he's absolutely on my Mount Rushmore. I'm putting Ghostface up there, so I'll just say that'll be my second pick.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think that, and that's kind of my representative of the slasher genre, I guess. Even I think it's my favorite version of that being done. I like you said, I love the fact that it's feels like a real like every single Scream movie there are moments where he's tripping up the stairs or someone kicks him in the face and almost knocks him out or he is knocked out, and it definitely adds this sense of like that is a real person, not a zombie for all of intents and purposes chasing after somebody.
Right.
It just makes it more creepy, and also I think I really like how it's always a mystery about like it's someone in the movie is this Ghostface. Someone that we know that we're seeing interact with these people is Ghostface. Every single time. It's someone you know. Kind of has that Scooby-Doo effect of like, there's always the reveal. And I will say like of the 6 Scream movies, there are varying degrees of success when it comes to how well the reveals are pulled off. There's a couple that are kind of like, ugh, that doesn't really land, or that it doesn't make much sense for that character to have this motivation or something. So that's fair. But even the ones that it doesn't work, like that, the guessing game when you're watching the movie is still kind of fun. Like you're still trying to figure out like who is that? Like, this person was in the room when Ghostface appeared, so it's not them unless there's 2 of them working together, and like you're trying to figure that stuff out.
Right.
Which I know you have said in the past maybe a potential knock on Ghostface is in like the movie it can allow the writers to get a little lazy with like, well, there's 3 of them working together this time, so even though you saw them get stabbed, it was fake. Like I understand that criticism, I do, but I think for the most part those movies there's like 1 or 2 of them that I'm not a big fan of the reveal or the motivations and stuff. But I think most of them are pretty decent as far as like they're not getting too cutesy with that. Like the stuff kind of makes sense about the motivations and who the reveal is. So watching the actual movies, I didn't get much of that, but I can see where in the concept in general kind of could lend itself to that. So I understand that, but yeah, I think that it is my new favorite slasher franchise. So yeah, I'm putting Ghostface on my Mount Rushmore as well.
Well, yeah, I figured of any of my picks, that would be like the one that has a high chance of being on yours. So I think, honestly, it might not be fair of me to have that criticism because I'm saying that based off of, I think it was Scream 5 that I watched. Did 5 or 6 like just now come out? 6? Okay, so I guess it's 5 I'm referencing. Correct me if I'm wrong. In 5, is there only two ghost faces?
Yes.
And then one of
Mm-hmm.
them's the girl, right? I think that was
Yes.
specifically, and again, I've only seen that in the original Scream. So maybe this happens at other Screams. But in that movie in particular, I was like, okay, the times where the girl was Ghostface, I feel like she should have got bodied a little bit more. Because if I remember right, she was
Okay.
a pretty
Yeah.
petite girl. Like,
That is one thing that yeah, she was very small. That actress is
yeah.
little.
So I'm like, I think we should be able to
So
see a difference in this Ghostface. Oh, this
yes,
one's shorter. Like,
hmm
I don't know.
that's fair. I mean, I do think that's you almost do have to. It's kind of funny. I don't think in a single Scream movie there's ever a moment where they're like, okay, like the killer is 6'1", and they like. I don't think they ever are trying to look at like the size. Like
Yeah.
it's like everyone's a possibility, everyone's a suspect, which is kind of not super realistic when it comes to how they would be able to differentiate who it might be.
Right.
And you're right. I'd have to get like I don't know off the top of my head like yeah the other killer was in this room at this time, so the ghost face we saw carrying this person would have had to be that girl.
Right.
I don't remember, but you might be able to find instances where it's like that would almost be physically impossible. I get that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's valid. I think. I don't know for sure. They might be smart as far as they can be with like no, it would have had to be that guy that was that
Right.
in that situation.
Same. I'm. That was why I brought that up, was to say that like I don't remember enough to say like
Yeah.
they definitely did that and that was so stupid. Or I also can't say they did it
Yeah,
perfectly.
but she
either.
was little, so like I do feel like there should have at least been a conversation dang, that Ghostface killer is tiny.
Yeah. She looked like yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I
She's
get that.
Putting on some football pads maybe or something. I don't know.
Right.
That being said, I guess it's time for my number 2 pick, and I'm gonna pick one that I can't imagine is anywhere near your list. Give me the dancing clown. I want Pennywise, baby. I don't think.
Okay.
Have you watched either of the modern It's?
So I have seen a decent chunk of the first one. I don't think I've seen it from beginning to end. I don't think I've seen any of the sequel though.
Overall, they're definitely like far from my favorite films. Like I think the whole thing of Pennywise is if you're not scared, he has no power. And I'm like, okay, right. But I think his whole power or whatever is he shows you your deepest fear. So even as an adult, whatever, we're all scared of something, whether it look like drowning or something, he's gonna simulate that for you, and he's gonna get that out of you. But Pennywise, like his powers, I think, like dude, he can like kind of like Wanda in like the freaking WandaVision show where she like kidnaps a whole town and she's got them doing her bidding or whatever. He can do that like and just like that. He can just have the whole like scenario the way he wants it. Kind of insane his like abilities, I think. One of my favorite things about Pennywise, as opposed to a lot of other like slasher characters, I think a lot of slasher characters in particular, they don't really talk. They're not really like a big personality. They're just big and scary. Like Ghostface doesn't talk. I mean, obviously he talks on the phone. Like whatever, Jason Voorhees never says a word. Like I think that's more like the slasher thing. Pennywise, that's all he does is get in your head and manipulate you and try to whatever. This is so specific, but I love it. Hey, did you ever see the epic rap battles of history with Pennywise against Joker?
I mean, I watched a ton of those, and I at one point in time I thought I'd seen them all, but off the top of my head I can't remember necessarily watching it.
Okay, the evidence I'm about to present is how Pennywise, like I said, he'll talk, but he'll deliver a dagger. It's like, oh my gosh, he just said that. Like whenever he's threatening the kids, and he says, "I'm not real enough for you. I was real enough for Georgie." He killed his brother, and he's saying that to his face. I'm like that's pretty deep, or whatever. In the Pennywise versus Joker, one of Joker's like last lines is, "You can dance with the devil like in the moonlight or whatever." And Pennywise says, "Pennywise loves the devil. We have so much fun together. But no one's dying to play with Joker, except for maybe Heath Ledger."
Oh,
Ooh. What a line. And he delivers it
Terrible.
like in the Pennywise,
Low
except for maybe
blow.
Heath Ledger! Like he says like as he's like joking. Oh my
Yeah.
god, dude. I love it. His personality is so like deranged, and I love him for that.
yeah. No, I mean, maybe a surprise. I literally briefly considered even Pennywise for that fourth slot when I was looking at things, but then, like I said, I haven't even really. I'm familiar enough with the story, but I haven't read the book or seen enough of the movie to even feel like I could have talked about Pennywise. But I do think the concept is really interesting. How he literally is like all these kids' fears, basically, and I think it's also kind of cool. I don't know if it's I don't know exactly how it's in the story is tied into the resolution, but how like once they grow up, it's harder for him then to connect with them because they've grown past their certain fears that they when they were kids. I think all that stuff's
Right.
kind of cool. I like that. I also think it's kind of cool to have a representation of Stephen King on the Mount Rushmore because what he has been for the genre.
Yeah.
What he's kind of a wacko, I feel like, in a lot of senses as a person. But there's no denying what he's done for the genre.
Right.
So I think it's kind of cool to have his representation up there. And I think if any other than maybe like Jack Torrance from The Shining,
Right.
would be the other character, I guess, that's like iconic. But maybe Pennywise is probably even more so than that. So I think it's a great pick, and I have no problems with that one.
Thanks. I think Pennywise the dancing clown, baby. You're on the clock.
All right. Um, so next we're going to talk about the house from Monster House.
Honestly, a great entity.
No. Honestly, that movie, I just saw a tweet about it or something a few weeks ago, and like that animation is absurd. It looks wild.
It was like almost like a mix in between like claymation and animation almost. Like it looked weird.
Yeah, it looks unfinished almost.
Yeah.
It just it's like I don't want to watch that. Now like looking at it, I'm like I have no desire to sit down and watch a movie that looks like that. Which is maybe mean, but it's like in that weird phase, like you said, where they were like pushing into the digital stuff, but like they hadn't quite figured everything out yet or something. It just like doesn't look completely right.
Right.
I don't even remember much of that movie honestly, but I think it was kind of scary for like geared toward kids.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. No, but I think my third one, which randomly this is probably like if I had to pick number one, I'll say I have number one. I'm gonna take the Xenomorph from the Alien franchise. Oh, man, and I know it's kind of weird because it's not like one. I guess Ghostface is the same way. It's not like the same person, so that's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
And obviously the Xenomorphs, there's hundreds of them throughout the entire franchise. But what that as a I guess extraterrestrial threat or something, I guess is what I would label this as if you're separating these into different types of things on my list. But it is probably my favorite alien character design ever. I think it's just just awesome of a design for this alien, considering it was especially designed back in the 70s. It looks great, and obviously it was like a physical suit or something at that time. But even like the more recent stuff where it's they look so detailed and stuff. The aliens look awesome. The like everything about them is really cool about how their blood is like this acid that you can't even touch. The little like tongue little extender is awesome. Just the whole thing with the face huggers and the eggs, which we talked about a little bit when we talked about the movie. It's great, and then you expand the universe more, and like in the sequel Aliens, you see like the Queen, and I think that whole like hive mentality, shout out Charlotte Hornets thing is really cool.
So stupid.
Yeah, whatever. But the Queen is really cool, and that's like terrifying in and of itself, the big alien Queen. So I just think how the xenomorphs kind of grow, and I love how I don't know if you've seen much of this yet because you haven't watched I don't think you've seen Alien 3 yet, have you?
I started it. I was like 15 minutes in. Yeah.
So one thing you I think in that one for the first time realizes like what the aliens hatch out of kind of takes that form more so. So like if the face hugger was on I think in that movie it might be like a bull or something. The alien is then it's not like the same
takes like attributes from
humanoid. Right, exactly.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of cool too. Like, there's different things like that I think are really cool. So I don't know, and like I said before, I think Alien is probably my favorite just horror movie in general. So I feel I could not take a Xenomorph and put it on my Mount Rushmore. So pretty simple pick for me, but no one's gonna be surprised by that one. But had to happen.
I freaking love it, dude. I am ready to say, and we can give some love to this specific like franchise at a whole episode, I think, in the future because we both love it so much. I recently rewatched. I didn't rewatch Prometheus, but I rewatched Alien and Alien Covenant again. I am ready to say that Alien Covenant is it's in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I love it. It's so good. Both of them are just fantastic. it's just so exhilarating watching these movies, dude. And the specific reason I give Covenant like a slight edge is because I don't know how much you remember of Covenant. I don't know when's the last time you watched it.
It's been a while, close to when it first came out.
It's on Hulu for what it's worth. That's where I've been watching it, which means I got to deal with the stupid ads and it sucks.
Yeah.
But I think it's around like 40 minutes in. If you want to go check it out, it's when like the first ones, the first xenomorphs we see in the movie are kind of hatching, but they didn't come from face huggers, so they're kind of like unconventional. They're kind of like not perfect, but it's like the one guy, he's sick like in the lander, and the other guy is sick like on the recon team, like trying to make their way back, but both things are happening at the same time. So it's like 15 straight minutes of just like this is going on, this is going on, this guy's dying, and this thing's blowing up or whatever. It's so small. One of my favorite things about the Alien movies, I think a few of them have done it that I've seen at this point. In the middle of like an action scene, the music is like just like a heartbeat, but it gets like faster as the scene gets more intense. So in that scene I'm speaking of in Coven, like the background the whole time is just boom, 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 and it really like amps you up. It makes you feel like you're there. Oh, dude. It's so good. I freaking love that movie. The ending, like one of the ending scenes, they think they've beaten the last xenomorph. They got it off the little like hovercraft thing, and now they're back on the big ship. And Captain, I can't remember what's her name. You remember her name? It's like Briggs or something. I can't remember what her name is. The woman who takes over. She's like the Ripley of this movie.
Yeah.
But
Right.
they like report to the med bay, and she says, "Why, mother? There is an unidentified life form on the ship." Oh,
Uh-oh.
I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
But we will give love to that franchise in a whole episode, dude, because
Absolutely.
oh my god, it's so freaking good.
So I guess that kicks it to you for your third pick. Yes.
Yeah, my third. This is where I had those two as locks. I'm trying to pick. I would think Ghostface is like a slasher face. That being said, he is not my favorite slasher. I have two that I bounce back and forth between, and I'm trying to only pick one to put on here. I think I'm gonna go with my boy. I think I'm gonna go with Leatherface, baby.
Yeah.
I think my favorite thing about Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, is that it's not just Leatherface. It's the whole family. Like you get the teenagers get stuck on this farm, or they're asking for directions, like whatever the case happens, and they end up there. The whole family is crazy. And honestly, like Leatherface is kind of like the least crazy one. He's just like doing their bidding. He's kind of just like doing what he's told. But his like brute strength, I love that about him. He'll just throw you around or whatever. He'll do the meat cleavers and stuff. Like anything's a weapon to him. He'll use the chainsaw, obviously. I do think there's some of the gorier slashers, which I'm not saying. I think it's kind of weird to say you like gore, but I definitely like. I don't shy away from a more gore movie. I think it makes it more intense or whatever, more realistic, I guess. So like. That's fine to a degree. I'm not saying Terrifier is the best movie ever, but I don't know. I like Leatherface again. I think it's one of the more like realistic settings. I like Leatherface. What do you gotta say?
Yeah. So I am more of a baby when it comes to like even like gore. I don't seek things with gore out, and that might be part of why the Scream movies really worked for me. Is I think they're toward the lesser end of as far as gore goes. The two more recent ones were definitely more brutal, I guess, in some of the killings, but they weren't crazy. So I'll be honest with you, like the Texas Chainsaw stuff, I don't know if I will ever seek it out to watch it. It feels like a little bit past what I'm like feeling like I'm gonna like willingly go to watch. It looks absolutely terrifying though. Like that Leatherface is maybe of all the slashers, like I'd be more scared of that. I feel like than almost any of them. Like that's terrifying. Like you said, I don't even know like about the whole family stuff, but just him himself, like it's just the whole concept of just this like psychotic, like just I don't know. It's terrifying, and I think like I've seen lists where like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre is like ranked as like the best horror movie. I don't remember what the lists were called, but I know it's often like very highly regarded.
It's very good.
I mean, I know there's been umpteen iterations at this point, like any of these franchises.
Right.
So I don't know how consistent the movies or anything are, but as a character, I know he's one of those iconic ones, and I feel like that's a solid pick, especially if you're just going for pure scare factor. Because I think he's scary.
I just like, and it's one thing like if you've gone to any haunted trail, you know what I'm talking about. But like in the movies when they're hiding and they don't know where he's at, and all you hear is the chainsaw, so you know he's close, but you don't know where he's
Yeah.
at. And like, do I run or do I stay or whatever? Like, oh god, it's
Hmm.
terrifying, dude. I think they're
Yeah.
really good.
Even that the final shot of like the main, I've seen like obviously the like the girls in the truck, whatever. He's just like wait, like even that just like unsettling kind of
Yeah.
just seeing him just like that frustration or something. You don't know. It's just everything about him just feels very unsettling. Might be the best word I could use to describe it. Just ugh.
Yeah, I mean he's using the faces of people he kills as like a mask.
Yeah,
That's pretty gnarly.
oh yeah, there you go. You don't need to say anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's dial it back a little bit, maybe, for your fourth pick.
Yeah.
The zombie
Oh,
from
oh
Scooby Doo
gosh.
Zombie Island.
I think my AirPods are not connected. I was gonna see if I can get a reaction out of you.
I saw you have him in. I was looking at the beginning of the episode. I was like, "Is he have him in?" I was like, "Okay, he has him in."
For anyone who doesn't know, I'm a moron, and someone should double check that I have these in before I ever record.
Yeah, yeah. We're sitting there last week. We're recording. I think we were literally 15 minutes into the recording.
I think it was 15. It could have been worse. 15.
It could have been the whole thing. And he's like, "Oh, hang on, I don't got my AirPods in," which means that my audio is just belting out of his speakers, and his microphone was going to have my audio just echoing the entire time, and it would have been absolute hell to try to like mute myself every time that he was talking or whatever.
I'm just a worrier, and I always worry that if I put them in too soon, we're just like chatting at the beginning,
And they're
the
gonna die.
battery's gonna drain in the middle of our recording.
Yeah.
So I'm always like, I'll put them in right before we start, and then we start talking, and I forget. Realistically, they're not gonna die, but it's just I'm weird and I think about stuff like that. But no,
I'm
we're
weird
all
and I
good.
think about stuff. That's going on a shirt.
Oh goodness. Where were we? Yeah, so my final pick. This is the last one that maybe a little off the wall, like maybe not one that you originally will think about. And I do think it's kind of funny and ironic that it will be on a Mount Rushmore just because of what a Mount Rushmore is. But I'm going to take the Headless Horseman. So I don't know how that would work.
I was wondering when you said it'd be even funny, like this on a Mount Rushmore. I was like, "What in the world is this about to be?" Yeah, it's something without a head on.
It's just 3 heads and just like a space for one.
Just like the collar.
Yeah. So this was one. This is, I think, I don't know. I kind of thought about this early on. I don't know, a couple weeks ago when we first kind of were talking about this as an option. And I just think I've always been interested in this. It's kind of more of my pick for like a classical horror or something pick. So I actually have not read like the short story by Washington Irving. But I've always been interested in like the story of Sleepy Hollow and the Headless Horseman. I know there's like the Disney version that was like that Ichabod and Mr. Toad, where it's like half the movie is the Mr. Toad thing and half the movie is like the Sleepy Hollow Ichabod Crane. Have you seen that?
I've not. No.
Interesting. You should watch it for Halloween. It's obviously Disney, so it's not like this crazy thing, but it's for Disney. It's kind of like, even that's kind of spooky. Like when Ichabod Crane rides his horse out into the woods at night and the Headless Horseman's like coming after him. It's kind of creepy for like a little kid's thing.
Yeah.
So I think there's been all kinds of different versions, and I watched a couple of them this week just to kind of get some thoughts in my head. There's a Tim Burton version from the 90s, just Sleepy Hollow, which it takes some liberties with the story again. And then I watched an old 1980 made-for-TV version with Jeff Goldblum as Ichabod Crane, which is literally like might be the most perfect casting ever. Because Ichabod Crane, it is like lanky, awkward. Jeff Goldblum is perfect.
That sounds great.
But it's kind of, I put this in I think one of the reviews I wrote for one of those movies on Letterboxd. I view the story of Sleepy Hollow kind of like a Christmas Carol in the sense where everyone kind of is familiar enough with the Headless Horseman and the story. Like, there's cartoons about the Headless Horseman's in this or that.
Right.
So everyone kind of is at least familiar enough with what it is that all these different versions can kind of take, like, things can change, but it's still the general same story. So sometimes it's more of a supernatural type of threat. Sometimes it's, oh no, this person was likely dressing up as this to scare people away.
Mm.
So there's a whole bunch of differences there. Um, but I just think it's kind of cool. I think it's because it's so recognizable to everyone, from children to older, and it is scary in its own right. This, you know, rider, this horseback rider that's terrorizing this town basically. You often see him with like the jack o' lantern that he kind of, maybe, I guess you put that in the Mount Rushmore, the jack o' lantern head or something that he throws. But I don't know. I think it's just, for what it represents, is like that kind of classical pick. You think about like, you could say like Dracula, or something else would be similar. I don't know. I because I'm interested in the story, and I've liked a couple of the versions a lot that I have watched. I just thought it would kind of be a fun final pick, and kind of take a different avenue than some of the other ones.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I somehow haven't seen anything to do with the Headless Horseman. Which I what you just said, what you just said, it makes it sound like something that I would enjoy, whether it's the Disney, kind of like version, or something maybe a little scary or whatever. Yeah, I definitely the concept's cool. Very unique, I think. So yeah, I'm definitely, I need to check those out. So which one overall do you think? The Disney one, or what do you think?
The Disney one, I think, is at least like does a good job of giving you a general sense of it. I think it's different. Again, I haven't read the actual short story, but I think it's closer to that. Like, Ichabod Crane is like this lanky. He's a school teacher that comes to this town, and he learns about the Headless Horseman and all this stuff. I think it's like a decent little version to give you the basics, and it's short because, like I said, it's like half of that little like movie Disney made. But I think you should. I think the Tim Burton one is fun to watch. Johnny Depp is Ichabod Crane in that one, and I will say it's not very good casting if you want like a what you consider to be Ichabod Crane. He's almost like not that character, but his character's fine. I don't dislike Johnny Depp's performance in the movie. It doesn't feel like what Ichabod Crane should be. But I think the tone of that movie is awesome. It's like has this weird dark tone. Like, I'm not the biggest Tim Burton fan in general, but I really like the way that movie looks. It was like a perfect October watch for me. I loved the vibes the movie gave. Has a really good Danny Elfman score.
Oh, you got me sold already.
I think you would at least like the vibes of that movie. I really like the way it looked, and the plot gets a little weird. Like, there's a couple turns the plot takes that it's kind of hard to follow, and like you almost just like, I don't even care to follow like the intricacies of what they're saying. I'm just here for the vibes. It's kind of what I feel like in that movie.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at pictures. Yeah. It looks like that, like spooky. It looks spooky.
It's kind of cool. It's a good October watch. I would recommend it to anyone who just wants to throw it on while you're like carving pumpkins or something.
And that is Sleepy Hollow from 1999.
Correct. Yep. Beautiful. That's it.
Okay. Well, it'll be on my watch list. I'm excited.
Cool.
My last one.
Take us home.
Is I can't pick another slasher, even though as much as I want to pick another slasher, I don't think I can. I don't think I can. I'll throw one in my honorable
You don't have
mention.
to follow my... I wasn't trying to make you follow the same rules I was. Just trying to pick different lanes. I just randomly started thinking that way. I was like, I kind of want to do that. But
yeah, no, I appreciate the route you've taken. This guy was in my honorable mention the whole time, so it was a chance I slid him in anyway. I would like to take Hannibal Lecter from The Silence of the Lambs. Between this movie and Criminal Minds, I, growing up, really badly, at points, wanted to be that. I wanted to be the behavioral analysis who reads people and can tell you whether they're lying or not, or I can tell you by the color of your socks what kind of morning you had, like whatever. I think it's really impressive. I think it's really cool that people can do that. I think it can really give you an edge over people if you need it in any situation or whatever. And I think Hannibal Lecter is obviously that in this movie. He's very intellectually, like, superpowered, almost. He really is. Sterling is fantastic, and like their relationship, how she's like interviewing him to try to catch this other serial killer, like it's just, I love the whole story. But the fact that he's just so cunning and he helps her out, but then he busts out and he's free and he does whatever he wants to do too. Like he gets what he wants. I don't know. It's not obviously like as like horrific as Leatherface or honestly almost any of these we've talked about. He's not really necessarily that like scary. It's realistic. It's it's a good story. I think I don't know. I just really like the character and what that character does for that genre.
No, I love it. I was honestly, he was another one that I heavily considered for my fourth slot. I think Hannibal Lecter is an awesome character, and especially in Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins' portrayal is so good. That performance is one of the best you'll see in a like horror adjacent movie ever.
Yeah.
Um, and I know, honestly, one of the only reasons I didn't select it, and this is no knock on you selecting it at all, was that there are so many movies and stories with Hannibal Lecter, and the only one I know is Silence of the Lambs. That's the only one I've seen.
True.
So I just didn't. That's honestly the only reason I didn't pick it. But I don't think it's a reason that you can't pick it. I know I've also honestly wanted to check some out because there are some really good directors who have made movies with Hannibal Lecter stories. Ridley Scott did one, I think, Red Dragon. I haven't seen that one. Michael Mann, another director I really like, did Manhunter, which is another Hannibal Lecter one. So there's a few. There's like a number, and I don't. Anthony Hopkins is in a couple of them, and then some of them are like different time periods where it's like a different actor is Hannibal Lecter. Okay. And I don't know how much, honestly, all the movies are like supposed to necessarily like connect to each other, or if they're just kind of there. I don't know.
Right.
So I would like to check some of those out because it is a very interesting, compelling character, and honestly, even if Silence of the Lambs was the only thing we ever had, I think it's worthy of the pick because he is creepy in his own. Like he's awesome. It's a very different type of character, and I think it's a great pick here. And like I said, I heavily considered it even for mine. So yeah,
Nice.
No issues with that.
Right. Yeah, I too want to see some of these other stories as well, and surely some other great ones, especially Ridley Scott. Come on.
Yeah, exactly.
With that being said, do you want to talk about any of your like honorable mentions that maybe just missed the cut, or how do you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, there. I remember when we first threw this out there, I said to you, like, are there even enough these like faces of horror to build like lists? And you just sent back like a text with like a decent number. Like here's like off the top of my head, and I was like, oh yeah, you're right. I think there are enough. And then honestly, you both probably included some today that weren't even on that list.
Yep.
You get thinking about it, and there's a lot. So I think there are definitely some that, like really iconic ones that neither one of us have. I think the biggest two that we almost have to at least like give a shout out to would be Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees.
Yep.
Which I think they're both great and they would have been deserving. I wondered if either one of those would sneak onto your list. But I don't know. If you're going purely off of just like my favorites, I'm taking the ones I picked. But man, like it is weird that we both built Mount Rushmores and neither one of those faces are on there because like the hockey mask alone is like so iconic, and Michael Myers is maybe the most iconic slasher that you could get as far as Halloween goes.
Yeah.
So it's weird that we didn't include either one of those to a certain degree, but at the same time, I like our list. So
yeah, he was. I slid him off for Hannibal Lecter. I had Jason, but I was like, I've already got Ghostface and Leatherface. I'm like, let's not do a third slasher. Let's get a different guy on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I both of them. I had Freddy Krueger for a moment. I like the concept of Freddy Krueger, like killing you in your dreams, is very like a cool concept. First off, I can't remember the last time a Nightmare on Elm Street came out. I think a lot of these, like, I know we've got, obviously, with Michael Myers and Halloween, we've got one that came out like 2 years ago. Ghostface just now came out this year. I think literally was Scream 6. So, like, some of these are more recent. Not that that's a knock on Nightmare on Elm Street, necessarily. I'm just saying it's been a while since I've seen one. I don't know who's the last time we got a more updated one. So, Freddy Krueger was on there, but I don't think he had a chance to really slide up into the top 4.
Yeah, I mean, he is another iconic one for sure. Just for me, I think the only one I've seen all the way through is a remake one from like the, I don't know, maybe 2000s, 2010, I don't know.
I remember that.
Yeah, so, yeah. Yeah.
When Tread says he watched this movie, he watched it like this. So I don't know how much he remembers, because I think 90% of the movie was watched in this stance.
I think, well, I will say, I think we also that same night watched Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
And I think that movie I watched more so through my fingers even. Not that I didn't watch both through my fingers, but that is the one that I vividly remember almost entirely watching through my fingers. But yeah, no, that's fair. But I remember pieces of it, and I don't know, I've never like considered like Freddy Krueger like a favorite character necessarily, but I think he is another. It's a worthy one if you're listing iconic ones.
Yeah.
Same with I guess Chucky or
Yeah.
Jigsaw or something.
I had
But
Jigsaw on my honorable mention. I haven't seen that many Saws. There's like what freaking like 12 of them now. Like
there's a lot. That's another one. I just have no interest. I think that's just too far for me. I don't
yeah.
know. No,
I think
no interest.
one of my things I do like about the Saw movies is that, at least from the ones I've seen, most of the times it's one of those situations where, like, if you just confess to whatever you're guilty of, he'll let you go. He's quite literally playing God. He just wants you to say, like, yeah, I cheated on my wife, or yeah, I stole money from the bank, like whatever. He wants you to like confess what you've done, and you get to go most times. So it's just a lot of times it's people's own egos that get in their way and they end up dying. But yeah, they are sometimes a little far with the goriness of them. So yeah, I totally understand that.
I think that's like I remember at one point I read a synopsis of the first one. I was interested in it because Cary Elwes or Els, I don't really know how to pronounce his name. I really like that actor though. Obviously a very famous actor is in it. So I was like interested. So I just like started reading the synopsis, and it sounded really interesting. Like it had a cool twist and stuff. I think it is just that's one of the ones where watching it, I don't think I could bring myself to do it. It's just a little too far for my personal taste. But yeah.
Oh, we honestly covered all my honorable mentions. Do you have any others that you want to give some love to?
No, I don't think so. I think that kind of covers the ones that I would give a shout out to. So
okay, well let's run them down real quick once again. What's your Mount Rushmore of the faces of horror?
So I have Bruce the Shark, not from Finding Nemo, but from Jaws.
Yes.
I have Ghostface from the Scream franchise. I have a Xenomorph from the Alien franchise. And I have the Headless Horseman from The Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
Ooh. I have Ghostface from the Scream franchise as well. Give me Pennywise the Dancing Clown. Give me Leatherface. And I'll also take Hannibal Lecter. I think those are two fine Mount Rushmores, buddy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they're both solid lists. And I'm curious to see if anyone listens and kind of throws out a something that they're upset didn't make one of our lists, or just wants to share their own. It's always kind of interesting to see which characters stick with different people. So hopefully people will let us know.
Sound off at Tis It Is Pod on Twitter. Tis It Is a podcast.
That's right. Tis it is. Tis it is.
Buddy, I got nothing else for you. I'm excited that we're still wrapping up this Halloween season. We got some more time left to go watch some more spooky movies and get in the mood, because then Christmas is knocking. It's coming fast.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. I'm so excited. I have really started to embrace the spooky season a little bit more.
Yeah.
In the past couple years, and I like the October atmosphere and stuff. Especially, my wife is a big fan of what we call it like cutesy Halloween, like all the little cute ghosts and stuff. That's kind of her lane, and even that's fun. I think just little cute decorations and stuff. And then obviously this month I've kind of challenged myself to watch a few different type of more scary movies and stuff that I normally would. So that's been fun. And I don't know, the vibes are really fun, but I will be excited to turn the calendar and start looking forward to Christmas.
It's coming, baby. And we're gonna get, well, I'm sure we'll give plenty of love to some Christmas classics whenever that time comes.
Always.
But no Mount Buttmore tonight. We talked about it. We couldn't really think of a Buttmore of these. They're all pretty good. I'm sure there's some random like terrible movies that are supposed to be scary that we could find a Buttmore of, but not anybody's gonna know enough. So we will bring you a Buttmore next time.
I know some people tuned in for that only, so sorry to disappoint.
No but.
No but.
Well, buddy, I got nothing else to say. Spooky season is in full swing, baby, and I'm loving it.
Happy Halloween.
Spooky.
Well, all right. Well, see you later.